Yeah. Good evening. Good morning. Good afternoon. Welcome you to the In Pod We Trust podcast.
Sport Life.
With your host Revolver.
Sport Life.
Talk about everything. All day. How you feeling? How you living?
How you living?
How you children?
How your children?
How your mama?
How your mama and them?
How your daddy?
How your daddy and them?
How your schoolwork? How your job?
Yeah.
In Pod We Trust. Can't talk to nobody else.
Sport Life.
We talk about it here.
Sport Life. Good evening, good afternoon, my good people. As always, I hope you have been well. I hope life has been treating you kindly. I hope you have been kind to those around you and those close to you. We touched down in the new year. 2019 has arrived. We are in the future, baby. Not really. Shit's just the same, apparently. And possibly getting worse. As we continue to spiral along this path that has been laid out in front of us, the struggle continues, the hungriness continues. So, it's been a lot going on. A lot in the sports world. I want to give a hearty shout out, salute, and head lowering to the Chicago Bears. We are in their division. Detroit, we suck. We couldn't get our shit together, but looked like Khalil and them was about to get business done, but that goddamn goalpost, boy, them kickers, the goalposts, and that fingertip ended all. So that's fucked up, but thought y'all had it, but guess you didn't. And as y'all will join us for the, as they always say, we'll get them next year. So our Pistons also, Blake Griffin out here struggling. He putting his numbers up, but the rest of the team, our center's doing his thing. We got a couple players here and there that be on and off, but we can't seem to string them together. Our Red Wings is out here doing the same shit, getting some of our folks back, but they too can't string together a few wins to make things look a little brighter. But the pieces are there on all of our teams, a lot of the pieces, and at the same time, a lot of pieces are missing. So hopefully on the sports front, the professional teams there, that'll be rounding in. We ain't mentioned the Tigers, of course, because it's the off season. But we will talk baseball when that comes around, and we will be talking more in depth on the sports. I'm just covering a little lightweight because, as y'all know me, I get into some of the other shit, the sports and all of that. That's great, and don't necessarily affect your life. I will get into the politics and all of that, religion and all of that, family, that shit that does affect your life directly. Now, of course, if you are on one of those teams or related to, sports directly, that does affect your life. And I'm sure it's husbands and wives at the house beefing over shit that we don't imagine either while we sitting at the crib. So, but closer to home, we address those other things. Also want to give a shout out to our two big college teams on the last note on the sports. Michigan's doing good. I believe they may have one loss. So they're doing good. And State is doing well as well. Michigan's ranked higher. They came out the gates a little hotter. State is doing its thing. We got a lot of returners, and what you don't want to fuck around with State is they'll fuck around and sleep your ass. They come into form around the time they need to come into form. So they getting better and better and better and better. So that's good. Let me get into this first thing. As of late, I've been having conversations with people here and there. And one of the things that we, me and my age, I'm not in the youngest generation, but we are younger. I'm in the generation that stands right on the fence line between the technology we got now and the technology that we didn't have. I'm in that group that walk around with a phone every day. At the same time, I was here before call waiting. Remember it very, very clearly. Remember the landlines at the house. People barely got landlines now unless you got an alarm or something like that. I remember, answer machines where the crazy shit now, motherfucker call you, they expect you to be there, and they know if you don't answer, pretty much, they don't want to fuck with you. But back in the day, you had no clue because you had to leave a message on the answer machine. You might just call a house. I remember back before the answer machines would even tell you they was full. You call a house and the machine was full or whatnot. Somebody could be dead in that bitch. Or you just be getting ignored or just be full. And it didn't tell you. It just continued to ring. And it was an infinite amount of rings. It would go a long time. I mean, hundreds of rings before you got the fast busy. Hell, I don't even know. I never waited on the line that long. You might never get the fast busy. Who knows? But I know that motherfucker would just ring and ring. So, in particular, what I was talking about, what I've been focusing on a lot is how I'm going to go ahead and, because they placed it so properly in front of our faces to see and to deal with, I'm going to talk about Apple. I'm going to talk about Apple because they put that apple on the back of their products. They put that bite out of that apple on the back of their products. And if you're biblical and if you're not, I'm sure you know the story of Adam and Eve at this point, and the Garden of Eden and knowledge. And God didn't want Adam and Eve to partake of the tree of knowledge, and the serpent, which, serpent. There's some things there. If you get into what the serpent might not really been a serpent. What they actually said, I believe, was he spoke in a whisper, and I believe the whispers, I believe the S is there, is what made the link to the serpent, but it may not have been a serpent. You get into the biblical thing, you'll, in the beginning, in Genesis, it certainly appears that God was amongst others, and that there had been others before or others to follow, because he made certain points in how it was either written or spoken. So either the chronological, the person writing it down was participating because God spoke out as if it was we and us. And I'm certain that whoever was writing this down didn't have that same authority level. It was just like a scribe, if there was actually somebody there writing it down. So whoever the we and the us is that were apparently already there, God made a separation between him, it, or herself and them, almost simultaneously as laying out how the earth was created and how the universe was created. So there's a thing there, and then you've got other notes where God says, I am a jealous God. If all other gods preceding that God were just idols, statues of stone and clay, then the real God would not need to tell you he was a jealous God. He's the only real God. The other ones can't be jealous. They're figments. You can place what you think upon them, and if life turns out however it turns out, your luck is bad or whatever, you might attribute that to that idol or whoever you're worshiping or your forefathers or ancestors. But this was a God that came and said, listen, I'm telling you flat out, I'm a jealous God. This is what I want you to do. I'm making bets with the devil, who that energy or person or thing obviously was there as well, because he certainly appeared in the garden. Also of note, while you guys speak of God being the all-knowing and all-seeing and being everywhere, you may ask, how after the apple was bitten by Eve and then shared with Adam, that God hovered over, walked through, surrounded, came up from under, or whatever, the Garden of Eden, and was calling out to Adam. Adam, where are you? Looking for his own creation and having no clue where it could be. So then I wonder, well, what level of knowledge is there? Did Adam instantly see? Think about that. He created Adam, created Eve as part of Adam from the rib. He knew all. He gave Adam dominion over the animals in the earth, named them, call them what you like. All this is yours. Of course, before Eve, and if you go in, we won't get into that, but Adam apparently had another wife before Eve. So then the story of the loneliness and all that shit starts breaking down. But we'll keep this line. It appears that God may have had fear more than, because he could have just made what he wanted. He had made what he wanted. You could instruct, program, have your being do what you want it to do. You don't have to place a tree of knowledge in the garden. The garden could have been somewhere else. Could Adam and Eve travel all over? How big was the garden? Why did you allow the tree to be there? Why did you allow the quote unquote serpent or whisperer to be there? Why are you so against what that was, which was knowledge? So my point in this little bit is being that if what was gained from the tree of knowledge was knowledge, and along with that came Adam and Eve and their embarrassment in clothing themselves and hiding themselves, again, somehow hid themselves from God. My point there is that God appears to have had fear. He had a choice not to put the tree there, had a choice not to, I'm assuming, since he's God, the God we all speak of, you guys speak of, he didn't have to allow any of that to happen. He gave a creature he had just created, apparently, free will, and the woman free will to deal with something that was on the level of some sort of deity, like they were going to be able to fight that off. Now, mind you, it wasn't like it was a bunch of work to trick Eve. Like a couple suggestions in the fucking evening, and that bitch flipped coat and then hung her dude up. But none of that had to have happened. And my point here, which I still haven't got to, is it seems that fear existed because the second man obtained knowledge along with the embarrassment. He gained enough knowledge that they were able to disappear from the sight of God almost instantly. What's God doing wandering through the garden, looking and calling out for Adam? Did Adam and Eve just gain a knowledge that was equal to God? A part of God? He obviously didn't want us to have it, didn't want them to have it. Or something that was the total opposite of God, thus canceling out the ability to speak, contact from man to God, and worse yet, from God to man. What if that parable, what if that book, the basis of it is really, really that simple? And then figure out what is the opposite of knowledge. If we put it on a continuum, scale left to right, we start to 0 point. 0 point would be because if it's a scale of knowledge and a zero, the middle point, not really the 0 point, the middle point of perfect balance would be an equal amount of knowledge and ignorance, which magically occurs at about the same rate. The more you do know, the more you're aware of how much shit you don't know and will never know and can never know. Not in the limited amount of time that we have as living beings. So on the continuum of the tree of knowledge, and we don't know what level of knowledge, carnal knowledge, intelligence, wisdom came forth from the biting of the fruit. Are we to assume that on our continuum scale that one bite from the apple pushed them all the way to the right of the scale where it was absolute knowledge? And then if you give them absolute knowledge right off the bat, sure, that would make sense. You therefore, God may not be able to locate you because in your now massive amount of knowledge and wisdom, you can make it so that he cannot find you. You can hide from him or her or it. Now, on the total, I'm not going to assume that one bite from the tree of knowledge just spilled out all knowledge to Adam. The capacity probably could have been there because God created him. I'm going to say something. No. As a matter of fact, we can work that out right now. We know that it didn't give them ultimate knowledge because once Eve took a bite of the apple, she would have first gained ultimate knowledge. And if Eve truly gained ultimate knowledge from the initial bite of the apple would have never made its way to Adam. As a matter of fact, Eve probably would have offed herself in the garden. And Adam would have just found a body next to the tree and next to the bitten apple. Or, which we can also cancel out because she was from the rib of Adam, created by God. Eve wasn't totally just evil. She didn't get instant all knowledge and then still say, you know what, fuck everything from my point going forward. Ultimate knowledge would have put you in some place like maybe God, where you would have certainly been willing to or seen that I can't let this go from here because once this evil or this knowledge or what God didn't want to gets out, it's all hell's going to break loose. It's all going to fall apart. So we know he didn't get pushed all the way down the scale of knowledge. So for a trinket of knowledge, you became invisible to God. Now, to me, on a scale where knowledge and wisdom and information is on one side, on the other side, you have to have the total opposite. Knowledge, no knowledge. Information, lack of information. As a matter of fact, you start lumping all kinds of shit in there that how's anything going to work other than some mindless zombie type servant. But you can't be too dumb on that scale because no one could teach you to serve if you were too dumb. If you're too dumb, unfortunately, seriously, if you're too dumb, you can't be beaten into submission if you're too dumb. If you're too dumb, you can't be beaten into serving something. You can't be beaten into learning something because if you're honestly all the way down on that scale, none of it would ever make any sense to you. Now, all the way down on that scale there where God apparently is sitting and didn't want you to have any of the knowledge, not even a pinch of knowledge, because that made you disappear from him and him have to wonder where the fuck you were. What does he want you down there for? Totally void of knowledge, totally void of wisdom, totally void of drive, totally void of humanity. Essentially totally void of life. Everything that lives goes through these processes, these the death, the rebirth, the withering, the youth, the growing up. Each one of those steps contains ascension of knowledge. You're getting wisdom along the way, no matter what. No matter what you're trying to do, if your brain is on, listen, people, the most thugged out, ignorant nigga you think you know, the craziest Spanish cat you think you know, the person that can't speak, just all of us, if we are walking forward, our brain is picking up things. It's obtaining wisdom. Now, much like I said with Eve, I don't think she got ultimate wisdom because it doesn't seem to lead to evil to me and destruction. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you just because I say that these steps that we all take make you, increases your wisdom and your knowledge and your understanding. Understanding, we'll put that in quotes because it doesn't necessarily increase your understanding. I'm not saying that it's good or bad. It's just information. And we can't help for being human for picking that information up. So where on this scale of all the way left of no knowledge and no bite from the tree of knowledge did this God want to place you? Seems like total ignorance and darkness. Yet at the beginning, he succored you. He succored Adam with the Garden of Eden. And again, as he spoke amongst those others that had already existed, we don't know if our time is time 500, time 1, time 2, if you're going with the biblical story. But again, it sounds like he was there with someone. Some things had already been done before Genesis. And the guy that we know, that we've been taught, was breaking away from them and saying, you know what, y'all are crazy. I'm going to come down into this void, if it wasn't all void. I'm going to speak this into existence or think this into existence, or, you hear that breath, into existence. I'm going to start it over. Or start my own. I'm going to place, it's just all crazy. Why even fucking have a man? Why have a man or woman? This is all just fucking crazy. Anyway, up out of this tree of knowledge, getting back to my point that I started all this with, is how do you guys feel about your memory right now? How do you feel about your memory? I ask you a couple things. If you go to a concert, how many pictures do you take while you're at the concert? How much video do you get? What do you do with that video once you take it? Save it for yourself? You put it online? You show off? You say, this is where I've been? You think people give a fuck about what you're doing that really ain't with you? Because really, that's the other funny thing. Anybody that you should be flashing and showing some shit that this is where the fuck I've been and this is how I'm balling and this is what I'm doing, I'm having a good time, God is good, praise, that person should be with you. If they was shit to you, most of them times, they should be with you. Otherwise, what the fuck you showing off for? Quit showing everybody what the fuck you doing. We honestly don't give a fuck. You're wasting your life. Or you're not wasting, you're wasting a part of your life because a part of it was concerned with showing somebody else what the fuck you was doing who wasn't important enough to be there with you doing it. So take that and put that in your coffin and let that sit for a second. Now, second question. What's your home phone number? Hopefully most of y'all know that. You know, a lot of us get to keep the same phone number for many years now, so that's fine. What's your mama number if you ain't in the same house? What's your cousin number? What's your best friend's number? If your mama died and she got a brother or sister, how long would it take you to get their number and contact. Do you know any of those numbers? Do you know any number other than possibly your own? Probably your mama and daddy. Maybe your brother, maybe family, close family. But outside of that, other than 911 and zero for the operator, if that still works, or 411, wherever y'all at, do y'all know any numbers? Do you realize what that means? I'm I'm pointing this out because I can tell you when I was a teenager, I had 20 to 30 phone numbers in my memory. And we had little black books. We actually had phone books. We had to write it down. So there's a little something there with that too when you have to write it down in your photographic memory and recall and all that. That helps. But we were built differently, built the same, but built differently because of the technology. We had to retain more things. And it wasn't like it was some struggle. You just retained what you knew you had to retain. You, of course, as a kid when you're first coming up, the first year, or whatever, you learning your name and your address and your phone number, blah. It's a little crazy that first year, but after that, everything just goes into our memory banks just fine. But now it's hard to remember a number, and it's not because I'm getting older, because I'm as sharp as shit, sharper than ever, quicker than ever. It's actually more difficult to remember a number because my brain has popped some new synapses that knows that I don't have to, that it is no longer a need or a requirement. I'm also aware that if they fucking hit the switch, cut the net off, and squeeze all the water out the clouds, that it's going to be a shit show. However, I know internally that my brain has sat back on a lot of things. And now it's harder to fire those things up. They're out of practice. So, the point of that is, it is happening all around us. You want to know what the future is going to look like? You want to know about the thing that fucks with people about artificial intelligence or dying and cryo freezing your body and putting that brain into a new body after they can figure out the medical issues, or just a new updated body, or moving it to a sentient being, or some sort of robotics, some sort of artificial type thing later. But we're closer to that than you think. And I'm not just saying, I know that people are frozen. I know that there are people in cryo tanks right now and have been for 20 years at this point. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the point where we thought it was all freaky. Like, how are they going to get my memories and my stuff into some sort of system? And I don't understand the digital. First, we can get into some science and we can really explain how everything is O's and ones. The whole universe. In between every atom is space. And most of us are made up of empty fucking space, yet we're solid. Everything is made up of atoms. Atoms are empty fucking space, essentially. Like 90%. It's the energy that's holding it together, that's making it seem solid. All of that we have now put into the phone. Don't y'all get it? Your phone numbers, your business, your credit card information, your bills, your geotag, your location, where you been, where you going. If somebody knows what they're doing and how, I got some apps for it that's gonna fix the texting thing, because it's hard to fuck with somebody. One of the things that's faulty with texting is you can't really read emotion. I got something for that, and it's very simple. But if somebody knows how to read that properly, they'll know how you felt almost hour to hour. And if they really want to get into some other shit, you might already have a bio reader on you, depending on what you're doing with your phone and, your Fitbit or whatnot. You got readers on you. So now you got something that can almost currently tell you how you're feeling. It can definitely, with heart monitors this, that, and the third can tell you how your body algorithms are doing, how all of that's doing, how your blood's flowing, how your heart rate is, how you're breathing, how you're seeing. All of that can occur right now, and some programs are doing it. They're tracking steps, they're tracking things. You can get your blood pressure with a couple pads on, just connect to your phone. It's all kinds of things. It's thumb readers on the phone now that can take your pulse and all of that. All of that's being dumped into that box right now, into that little box with the bitten apple on the back. That's you. All that information of us is being pushed into that box. Not even pushed into the box. That's the thing. We're giving it to the box. We're willingly giving it to the box because I think humans are kind of lazy on things like that. And we didn't want to have to retain all that. I feel that. I'm a futuristic guy. I'm always like that. I'm mad we ain't been in flying cars for like 15 years. But that is what it is. But however, you are now in your phone. Anything you want to look up. Another thing that we're losing. We know that we don't have to necessarily know shit at this point, right? You used to take a little pride when you knew something. You went to school. I ain't even talking about school. Just you would want to know things. You didn't want to be wrong. You didn't want to say something and have somebody. So you would internalize it. If it was something you cared about, you would go at it. You would learn it. You would internalize it. You would be able to answer a quick question about it. You may get deep into it, maybe answer something serious. But the point is, you more about obtain the knowledge and it sat somewhere in your brain where you didn't have to go look it back up or whatnot. Now, with everything you might want to possibly know, any photo you might want to see, any scientific thing you might want to know, math, you want videos for it, you want it written out, you want something from the universities, you want professionals, you want somebody that's actually walked the path. All of that shit is online right there. So why would we retain it? Along with not having to retain it to go about the steps to get the information and internalize it, that in itself is a memory. It's an action. It's a going about doing something. It was a picking a book up. It was a researching. It was what you did that day to go to the library, where you looked. Not, you can ask me anything and I can reach in my pocket and I can Google it and I can have you the exact answer, something really close, or we can be on the road, snap, just like that. Now, like I said, I'm a futurist. I love that. I always love that. I think we should be full open to knowledge, but I wish that once we got the knowledge, I wish that we still learned it, held it. Let me say knowledge. I kept saying knowledge. When we get the information, I wish that we held it, internalized it, turned it into knowledge. Not just looked it up, saw it, and it was, there it is. And then it was done and over with. I don't need to retain it. Everybody can go look right there. This is what it is. Those experiences, those memories, that drive to know is being absorbed into the box. That's us going into the phone. Again, your numbers, your pictures, your business, credit cards, companies, where you been, what you eat, who you're friends with, who you don't like, your political views. All of that's there. So for all intents and purposes, we're gone. The human being is already in the box. And if we're in the box, do we want to be in the box? Now, this is in the U.S. Now, we know if we go all over the world, the internet's the internet, but it's still more people without than with. So then there's going to be, what's the balance there? Do you turn everybody's ability to get that information on, which is what it should be, because it's just flat unfair right now? Because in a lot of those places where it's not turned on, where you can get all the information, that ground level of people could really use that information to come up. And some of those gatekeepers are not allowing that information to get to those people so that they can come up, so that the status quo of the world can continue to work. But as I'm saying, there's still more without than with. But in the U.S., we're going into the box. We are all in the box. We got a bunch of guns and we got a bunch of cell phones. So we killing and we mindless. And we got a bunch of people addicted to pills. So America's looking fabulous on that end, but humanity, the going into the box like this should be disturbing to everyone. This is you. This is essentially, you're putting everything, willingly or not, it's just, you've been tricked at this point. You wasn't supposed to be doing nothing on that motherfucking phone but making calls. But we knew it was going to go there. You're going to put everything on there because that's what we do. And then the next thing that we do is we make it easier and easier. We get lazier and lazier. And here we are, zombies, kids getting bullied on imaginary air because we're in the box. See, it's harder to bully generations the further you go back, the older you get with somebody, because that being in the box to us still is silliness. You cannot bully somebody online to a place that you don't have to go, that you don't have to be seen, and more so that there's no physical contact. There is no bullying if there's no physical contact. Everybody being bullied. Get that through your heads and release the bully thing. Bust a nigga in their motherfucking throat, they say some crazy shit to you. Really? Because if they just talking, they not bullying. They working some shit out themselves. Yeah, it's annoying and shit, but like I said, punch them in their throat, see where that bullying get them, because if they was really about it, I suppose, they wouldn't just be talking bullying you. Any of y'all, did the kids even get chested in the hallways anymore? We used to throw motherfuckers in the lockers. And I was a nerd. I just knew everybody. And my crew was tight. But we couldn't be bullied by imagination. We grew up in a generation where there were places you couldn't go. That's how you got bullied. That's how you knew you was getting bullied. Somebody put hands on you. And it made it hard for you to go places. You can go anywhere online. Fuck out of here with that. It's an unnecessary thing. Don't allow somebody to talk bully you when they're using a weapon that's no bigger than your own weapon. Talk bully back. You want to talk shit? Talk shit back. It's an equal playing field right there, unless you allow the talking to get the upper hand. Now, if it's a big cat and it's physical and he's just talking, generally that works out too, because big niggas usually don't talk a bunch of wild shit because they know they can fuck most people up around them. So it kind of works out. You got some knuckleheads, but generally big fellas don't find it necessary to be talking a bunch of shit. What's the point of it? You talk shit to them and see what happens. And they know that. But we in that box. We are in that box, and these are all the parts of humanity that are failing and getting soft at the wrong time. These things should be moving on an equal plane. We cannot allow our technology to soften us. Let me get into some racist shit right here. Let me light this cigarette. But on the true racist side, listen, what happened when everybody lets the technology get loose is you do get lazy and you get ignorant as fuck. Let me explain the components there. We know in the U.S. history, there's been one group of people that I'm going to say is lazy. I am black, and I've been amongst a group that has been called lazy. Behind Spanish people who take siestas, behind Indian cats that be on pretty chill, hot tea in the hot sand, shit like that. We relaxing. Every nigga you know's been grinding when they could. And if you just want to put lazy into the equation, laziness also don't work for a thief, a crook, and a robber. So if you call black people, they try to put those two things together, like selling crack and all of that is not actually effort. I know the majority of people couldn't fuck with the dope game just off of the stress. Same level of stress a doctor or anybody else is doing these things have. Except at the end of this, the doctor can kill a patient, pretty much go home, have a glass of wine, good dinner, and fuck his wife or her husband. And the drug dealer, he fuck up, somebody might come kill him, or at the least he'll end up in jail. So I think the drug dealer's pressures might actually be a little higher. Plus the environment. We know where the doc's probably living. We know where the drug dealer's probably living. Family. We know the doctor's family plus the drug dealer's. I'm generalizing, of course, but I'm generalizing fucking accurately. Surroundings, who they're dealing with, level of expertise versus that line where you think anybody's going to cross it. You don't go and punch a doctor in the motherfucking face because the doctor's performing an art. This is a thing that he's studied way further than you, and probably anything you try to do to fix yourself is not going to be anywhere near what they're going to do. However, on the streets, you can equal and equate a bunch of shit out real quick. The drug dealer can fuck you over and you stab that nigga in the neck in 2 minutes. So the level of playing field is grossly tilted, weird, and much more dangerous. And I think the stress level on the streets is way higher. And my point being, the racial component is we know one group of people that have historically gotten somebody else to do their work and sat back. And it appears from looking around what's been created, sure, there are some nice things, but the underlying current and toe of the situation is quite nasty. It's still built quite off slavery. It's still built quite off of fleecing the general populace for money and really fleecing those that are closer to the lower end for money, time. It's purposely made hard for the people that actually did the work that the others stood on their back. So, and simultaneously made the biggest lie, told the man about who was lazy. The slave master called the slave lazy when every inch of work was being done by the slave. Nigga, do you know that this is the same thing as Lamont being called lazy by Fred, who was just coordinating? The slave master was just coordinating and calling Lamont lazy while we driving the red truck all around LA. El Segundo trying to bring home the scraps. Grinding. Baling cotton. But I'm lazy. So this is what I think happens when you just allow just free reign of letting the computer, the phone, the internet take our humanity from us. You lose the human to human touch, the knowing what to say, how to say it, where to say it, what's bullying, what's not bullying, what's a friend, what's not a friend, how not to get hustled, how not to get taken advantage of by niggas like R. Kelly, how not to become a psychopath yourself. Edge out, circle around the people with actual mental issues. They stand separately. But a lot of this shit is not that. It's being driven to things because you aren't equipped, and it's because we are giving away the things that, our parents thought too much TV was crazy. You used to have to go outside, get out the house, and whatnot. Now, mind you, was many, I guess, molesters and crazy motherfuckers around then. It was, less going on, but Your parents, they knew where you was, but you didn't need to be in the house all the time. And then the video games came, and our generation stayed in the house a little bit more, but we still got out more. And now I know parents are trying to limit screen time, etc. But the kids aren't. They're just giving it up. We are but a generation, and I'm talking short generation. I don't do generations in the 25s and 50s. I do generations as they turn, about 10 years, and and I judge generations by the gap in information and how they react. Just like Generation X to Y, there's a long line of Generation X. No matter what the dates are, there's a certain way that group acted, and when Y came along, it was a total shift, and then the millennials, that's a total shift. So you go by that, and if you notice that window between Generation X and how we acted in Y, it was many years, and then the distance between Y and millennial was short as fuck. The next one's gonna be as short as the millennials to the Y, or Y to the millennials, or shorter. I expect that as everything grows and information grows, it will be shorter. And they will know how to react even less well. I guess the one thing is that generation, as we're coming up, there are fewer kids being born. It's a lot more atheists running around, and a lot more saying, I ain't bringing a kid up into this bitch. But as this time goes, if we're at this line now where our whole lives, our whole essential beings, except for what we could call our soul, is inside a cell phone, and that cell phone is being paid for, therefore owned by someone else, the ability to use Google, to use the internet is owned by someone else. Your Facebook, we see what that's doing. You fools, again, it's free shit. It's never really free. All of that, at this point now, it's going to be way worse. And I don't know what we're going to be walking around like, because we can't interact. And the interactions, when we do, it's going to be drastic shooting ups and crazy shit going on. And then on top of all of just that baseline, how life is just progressing, we've got on the political side and the presidents and in the divisions there and the divisions in the country, we've got all that on the top, stomping down on the top. The core, though, is we're losing ourselves to the machine. We're giving ourselves to the machine. And is it worth it? What's the damage? excuse me. What's the damage that it's going to do? What's the damage that it's doing? I've laid out a few things that I already see is very damaging, and at points where it's not something that's going to turn around, because how's the generation that is being birthed now in us, and we're into what we're into, how are we, and how would they ever teach anything different? They can't. They know of nothing different. It's such a line between serious parenting and where we're at right now. And I'm just saying, and I'm not saying that them parents back then, my age, we crazy. My parents, they was crazy. They parents was crazy. It was a tighter line of you didn't disrespect, minus the technology. More self-aware. You had to be a fan for yourself. It was a heavier, thicker, brighter line between the bullshit and what was expected of you, the embarrassment that you could bring down on your family, and you just wanting to make your home safe. It was different. And that was driven a lot by the fear that a parent could instill in you. See, it's hard. I say this as well to people. It's hard. Prior to now, the last, 10 to 15 years, a parent could scare the shit out of a kid. You could threaten, you could say the boogie monster was outside the door, and the kid didn't have the means to know that you were lying, even though the boogie monster is outside the door. didn't have the means to know that you were lying. You recognize that everybody that still pulls that off, where the kids are very well, they're very strict. They don't allow a lot of things. It's because when the world gets in there, your teachings have to accommodate all of that. So you'll see people that just fully pull their kid back away from society. Now, I don't know how they're going to do in society later. I suspect that if kids are online fully submerged in society and can still be bullied and commit suicide and things of that nature, that when these kids get put out into it, it's totally going to be fish out of water. So the first time somebody don't agree with them, right, or really tell them to fuck off, they've never heard it before. They're going to take fuck off like it's the end of the world. And they're going to try to end you or end themselves. So how can we expect anything different to be taught when your kid can question you? And as long as they have that box in their hand connected to the internet, you can bully monster them and say, listen, I'll cut the internet off. I can take that access. You can Kim Jong them. And so they just won't know. But for all intents and purposes, if you say something wrong right now as a parent, your kid can turn around and punch a few keys and tell you what's right and how you were wrong. So now what's the parent do? You embarrassed? And then how does the kid feel about the parent from that point on? They're going to look at the parent like, oh, you were supposed to be instructing me, and apparently you don't know shit. You didn't even know enough to go pick up the fucking phone before you said that reckless shit to me and look it up. Or think that I wasn't smart enough to look it up. So it's a disrespect line that's being driven there solely by the availability of technology. We have got to watch it. Now, I'm not standing on no kind of bullshit saying we shouldn't be flaming through technology as fast as we can. I'm not the one, as I started with the tree of knowledge, I'm not one. You'll see from my motherfucking mic cord logo that's like the doctor's staff, that's where I'm at. The DNA, that's where I'm at. The technology, that's where I'm at. The holographic universe, that's where I'm at. Is there a God? Can you prove it? Can you disprove it? That's where I'm at. Did God give us the technology? That's where I'm at. Because he allowed the tree to be in Eden. That's where I'm at. So, as Eve wandered through the grasses and heard the phone ring, she picked up the Apple phone. She said hello. And from that point on, she's been in the Matrix. God didn't want you in the Matrix, apparently. What fear did he have of this technology, and are we seeing it bear out? Is it bearing its quote-unquote fruit, pun intended, right now? Is this the fruit? This world that we're spiraling towards, where the technology, that phone box again, is one of the main ways that this monster in the White House communicated to his... I don't even know who he communicated with through that box, that teller of lies, directly to your pocket, directly to your hip, directly to your hand, to your ear, and to your brain. The lies following you. Is that how bullies feel? I mean, is that how the bullied feel? That because that phone's in their pocket, that the bully's right there in their pocket with them? That everybody the bully's talking to is right there with them? All of that. Fuck all of that. Then she brought that damn iPhone over to Adam. Adam said hello. And here we are. Down the path, still with the knowledge, still with the apple, still taking a bite, and still wondering why God didn't want us to have it. Why does something with all knowledge not want you to have Like I said, on that scale, any knowledge. Adam was closer to not having any knowledge on that scale. Where I said the 0 point would be the balance of, knowing and knowing what you don't know. That's not what was prescribed to Adam. He apparently was given the language, given the authority and domain, but he wasn't at that time told to worship God. Correct? No. So God didn't even say, I'm going to put you at the balance point in the middle where you can be taught to serve me, etc., where you can be beaten into serving me, etc. He wanted him at a point of no knowledge. No knowledge puts you on the scale where you can't be taught, where you don't want the information, where you don't want love, where you don't want fear, where you don't want anger. You don't understand any of it. You are a babbling fool. Truly, though, on that end of the scale, I don't even think that you babble. So this is what God wanted. And we have apparently run the total opposite way. And I wonder what the ultimate consequences will be. I won't be here. You won't be here. I mean, unless we somehow end it quick. I wonder what those consequences will be. We are losing ourselves to the sneaky technology, not the one that everyone fears, not the robots killing you, coming alive, and blah, blah, blah. You're in the phone, homie. You're in the phone, homegirl. It's already got you. It's got your memories. It's got your times. It's got your responses. It's got your loves, your likes, your dislikes, your political views, your religious views, your eating habits, your health habits, your spending habits, your credit, where you are, where you've been. And if you know what you're doing, you can tell pretty much where you're going. They can advertise directly to you. They can sell directly to you. You can buy directly from them. Why do you need to go anywhere? Why do you need to be a human with a body at all? At all. You really, maybe, I'll leave the gate open and say, someone will suggest out there, what about sex? What about, how good food tastes? And all of that's in your mind, homie. All of that's in your brain. Your food sensors, all of that. Taste sensors, excuse me. What do you think? Your brain, you actually think you take a piece of chicken and lay it against your brain that your brain will taste chicken? That's a conversion of zeros and ones, homie. Piece of chicken, piece of steak, that's a 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1. And that's how your body takes it in. Information. You could just as well, your favorite meal could be steak and cheesecake, and you could go somewhere and get hypnotized, and they could just seed your mind, and that would be the grossest thing to you ever. Your brain would turn. So what do you need a body for? All of that can be in your mind, and we put most of it there already. You need to feel sex? The erogenous zones are in your brain, babe. That can be taken care of too. You don't need eyes. Those are O's and ones. Ones and O's. On and off. It's digital. And once you understand that it's all digital, you understand it can all be programmed and fixed and set. Much like a God may have said it. But right now, humans, We real close to just being able to set it. So what do you need flesh for? What do you need flesh other than the flesh of your brain? Put that in a bottle and hook some plugs to it and get it cracking. But I'm going to leave y'all with that today. Think of where you are. You might want to get out the box. You might want to stay in the box. I ain't beefing with you either way. Because in the end of this, I say I'm wondering where we're going. I know where we're going. I'm not going to say it, but I know where we're going. I'm trying to fucking scare y'all to fucking death, but I know where we're going. I know what the point of it was. I know what the point of it is. Now, do I know the meaning of life? No. I kind of know the meaning of this life, though. I don't know the meaning of all life, but kind of know the meaning of this one. And if you're in the box, you might want to back out of that box. You may want to get closer to those close to you. Actually touch them, hug them, kiss them, laugh with them, cry with them, argue with them. People close to you. People you think they might be cool. Get in there. Talk to them. We gotta expand. We are separate. That's another thing that it's driving. It allows us separateness to continue. But get out there. See the sun. Because the totality of the experience, I think, is why you need the flesh. You might be able to program in what it feels like to step in the hot sand in Jamaica. Little sharp shell, catch your heel. Little coolness from the breeze on the back of your legs from, just being in the pool, in the ocean. That salt burn off a little slower on your legs. A little cool breeze come through and the sun hitting you, at that angle. How they feel on your skin, that brightness that makes you squint. Being there with who you're there with. That totality of the experience, we may just never be able to get into the box. So that may have been the intention the whole time. And how sad we would all be if we get to the end, if we get to heaven, if we get to hell, if we get into a box and get into the goddamn ground. And on the way out, or just after we cross over, we realize, oh, shit, that was the point. That was the point. My mind may have always been unlimited, but my flesh always had an expiration date on it. Probably should have used it. Sports Life, baby. Peace.